the real problem is this. We are developing a generation of teenagers because of this that are sophisticated but not mature. And Kevin, you've done a bunch of research on this. They are maturing way later than they used to.
Yeah, and there's actually some good news in this. Is we think about extended adolescence and we go, oh, that's bad, and parents specifically think, oh, I was much more mature and I grew up much faster. And there are some very negative things about that. So the average parent years ago thought they had 16 years to raise their kids. My parents probably thought they had 18, right? Many then thought 21. Now it really is the idea of 24. The average parent thinks they have 24 years to raise their child. But there's a lot of good within that. They have more space to take off, more stronger encouragement in what's going on, knowing the brain doesn't fully develop until you're 24, as far as that goes. But there is this now negative side of, if we're not careful, we can begin to compare who we were, who we think we were, to who our kids are now, and think there's a maturity gap that's not necessarily the case. And we can begin to hold back consequences from them and responsibilities for them that are actually extending their adolescence maybe more than it needs to happen. But this idea of extended adolescence, puberty is hitting earlier, and then kids are launching later. That extended adolescence has some good aspects. Rates of drug abuse are down, experimentation is down, rates of sex among teenagers, teenage pregnancy is down. All these things are good aspects. The downside of it is some kids aren't learning responsibility. They don't know how to interact in the concept of relationships. So we need to understand extended adolescence is a reality for our kids. Now, how can we leverage that for the benefits and try to remove some of the consequences?
Yeah. Also, on that note, and I don't think we can solve this right now, but on that note, I do think part of the thing we need to pay attention to is COVID actually had a part to play in that conversation. And I don't think we're going to understand what part it had to play for years. My brother had a child in COVID. The kid for 2 years didn't know. I mean, I was in Canada, so I was stuck in my house a little longer than you guys probably were. So when it broke and they went out, they'd be out for like 15 minutes. All the kid wanted to do was go back home. That was what he knew. That was the world he knew. And I think there'll be an interesting conversation in 10 years from now about the effect that had on a generation of young kids. And I see it, even in my own kids and whatever age they were at. So,
Oh, I think we'll be talking for a long time about COVID kids and how that generation's what.
And yet what hasn't changed is what they're being bombarded with through music, through various media.
Yeah.
And so they are learning all these things way too early. I mean, the wisdom writer is going to say, do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires. And yet we are bombarding our kids with that now, and they don't have the skills and the wisdom to navigate it.